Welcome back to Know Your Universe. This is a series here on Comicstorian that we used to do a long time ago, but we've recently brought it back to help you, the viewer, understand your favorite comic book universe. Do you want to know more about the intricacies of DC and Marvel Comics? Well, this is where you can get it. Now today we're going to be covering Shazam because, well, his trailer was just released over at San Diego Comic-Con. Now created after the success of superheroes like Superman and Batman, the character originally known as Captain Marvel first appeared in Whiz Comics #2 in 1940. It was published by Fawcett Comics and created by Bill Parker and artist C.C. Beck. The comics featured Captain Marvel, and they would go on to become the best-selling comics of 1940, even outranking Superman, one of the most popular superheroes. Now originally, Captain Marvel was conceived as a superhero alter ego of 12-year-old Billy Batson, a homeless newsboy living on the streets of New York. At night, Billy would go to sleep in an old subway station, which is where he met a mysterious man in a green cloak. The man invited Billy to join him, and the two embarked on a magical subway car. It was a simpler time, where you could just follow a stranger into a subway station instead of running and telling the cops. The car drops them off at an underground throne room where a bearded man dressed in white robes is waiting. The wizard explains that he has used the powers of the gods to fight evil for 3,000 years. Now he has grown old and must choose a successor. Billy Batson has been chosen due to his misfortunes in life, although later retconning would change that because he was pure of heart. He would then be able to speak the magic word Shazam, Shazam being an acronym that explained what gods he would get his powers from, and a bolt of lightning would change him into the super being known as Captain Marvel. Speak the word again and boom, he'd be back to young Billy Batson. The powers of Captain Marvel came from the gods, those being Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. Captain Marvel became so popular that Fawcett Comics decided to expand the character by introducing the Marvel family, which included Mary Marvel, who was Billy's twin sister, Captain Marvel Jr., who was a crippled newsboy named Freddie Freeman that Captain Marvel had saved from the Nazis. Unfortunately, the combination of Captain Marvel's popularity falling and a drawn-out legal battle would see the character become dormant for many years. Now in 1941, after a year of outselling every other comic in the market, Fawcett Comics was sued by DC Comics, then known as National Comics, for copyright infringement, alleging that Captain Marvel was based upon their most popular character, Superman. 7 years of drawn-out litigation went by until Fawcett and National went to trial in 1948. Initially, it was decided that Captain Marvel was copyright infringement. He was just a version of Superman, but National Comics had allowed that copyright of Superman to become invalid. Fawcett seemingly had won the case. National appealed, and in 1951 it was decided that their copyright was valid. However, Captain Marvel was not in infringement. After another appeal, Fawcett decided to simply settle out of court with National Comics. And during the 1950s, the superhero comics had begun to decline in popularity anyway, and Captain Marvel sales were not even close to matching what they were during the 1940s. After settling the case, Fawcett shut down its comic division. And the last appearance of Captain Marvel was in the Marvel Family, number 89 in 1954. With superhero comics becoming popular again in the 1960s, known as a Silver Age in comics, National Comics, now known as DC Comics, was looking for new characters to publish, and in 1972, they licensed the character of Captain Marvel from Fawcett. At this time, Marvel had created and published their own character known as Captain Marvel, a Kree spy who had come to Earth in 1967. To differentiate the two, DC changed the title to Shazam, the world's mightiest mortal, publishing the first issue in 1973. Seeing as all comics and toys featuring the character had to use the subtitle Shazam, this became the title of the character, with many people not even realizing that it wasn't his actual name. Captain Marvel and the Marvel Family appeared in their own comics until 1978, and unfortunately, the character never gained the popularity of his early days, even though the writers tried to reboot the character using a more realistic style. I assume that was the grittiness of the 70s. Captain Marvel ended in 1978 with number 35, although the characters would live on as backup stories within pages of The World's Finest and various miniseries throughout the next decade. In 1986, Captain Marvel was then introduced into the DC Universe proper, becoming a member of the Justice League. A miniseries entitled Shazam: The New Beginning was released, and the idea was to start a new ongoing series. Despite selling well, the new Shazam reboot went through several creative teams and never saw print. Captain Marvel would continue to appear in various DC comics, and at this time, DC had fully purchased the character from Fawcett, giving them full reign of his future. In 1991, they finally saw another miniseries for Captain Marvel. The Power of Shazam graphic novel saw a resurgence in popularity for the character and led into a new series that ran from 1995 until 1999. The new series reintroduced the Marvel family into the modern DC universe, and after its cancellation in 1999, a second graphic novel titled Shazam! The Power of Hope was released in 2000. Captain Marvel would be featured throughout several titles and miniseries throughout the next decade, appearing as a returning character in Jeff Johns' JSA, as well as the Marvel family being featured heavily in the Infinite Crisis event in 2005. Billy and Mary Batson also appeared in Blackest Night in 2009. Captain Marvel again appeared in DC's Flashpoint event in 2011. Flashpoint featured an alternate timeline where Billy Batson, Mary Batson, and Freddie Freeman were joined by Eugene Choi, Pedro Panay, and Darla Dudley. When all 6 kids said the magic word together, they would join together to become the superhero known as Captain Thunder. Once the events ended, though, and the New 52 universe was solidified, Captain Marvel was reintroduced to the world. Written by Jeff Johns again, the new story of Shazam ran as a backup series starting in issue 7 of Justice League in 2012. The new reboot finally changed the hero's name officially to Shazam, and with Jeff Johns stating that the change was because that's what everyone thinks his name is anyway. In the new origins, Billy had been changed from an orphan newsboy to a troubled 15-year-old kid who had gone through several foster families in the city of Philadelphia. In his newest home, Billy was introduced to the same group of kids from the Flashpoint event, with his twin sister becoming the unrelated Mary Broomfield. Once Black Adam had been released from his tomb by the evil Savannah, the ancient wizard begins to search for a successor, and eventually, Billy is summoned, but he is deemed unsuitable for the power because he is not pure of heart, and in his own gruff way, Billy convinces the wizard that there is no such thing as a person who is truly pure of heart. Realizing that Billy has the embers of goodness within him, the dying wizard passes on the powers of Shazam. After the wizard dies, Billy is transported back to Earth where he uses these abilities to make money and get beer. It isn't long before Shazam is attacked by Black Adam. And after Adam unleashes the 7 deadly sins on the people of Philadelphia, Billy decides to share his powers with the other kids who are transformed into their own heroes. After battling the evil entities, Billy manages to trick Black Adam into stating the magical word, transforming him for the first time in centuries. Black Adam's human form begins to age rapidly, becoming hundreds of years old, and as Billy watches, he fades to dust, blowing away with the wind. Now, during the events of the Trinity War, Shazam was inducted into the Justice League, and he worked closely with Cyborg, who would become one of his best friends. Then, during the events of the Darkseid War, Shazam's power had the most drastic changes since his original inception during the 1940s. In the event, Darkseid is killed by the Anti-Monitor. His death is so cataclysmic that it causes ripples that affect Shazam's connection to the gods. The spirit of the Wizard of Shazam appears and creates an arrangement with a new set of gods. Conveniently, this new set also happens to spell out Shazam, which is lucky because another name change would have been a real pain. And the new gods include Siva, Hornmamur, Anipal, Zanuz, Eight, and Mararagon. I butchered every one of those names. I don't even know if they're going to use these characters anymore, though. One imagines that the wizard searched all over the pantheons for a list, trying to make that acronym work. Now Billy is trying to learn the extent of his new powers and what his future holds. But that's not just the ending. See, when Darkseid War concluded, we then entered into DC Rebirth. And since then, we have not seen Shazam. Now, rumor has it that Jeff Johns has a lock and key down on Shazam, wanting to use him in the Doomsday Clock event. But we don't know anything, and the only appearances we've seen of Shazam has been as a background character in other books, and it looks like his original power set has been restored. We're unsure as to what is actually going on right now, but with a movie coming out and Jeff Johns having control of the character, I have high hopes for Shazam. He's one of my favorite obscure characters. Anyway, what do you think of Billy Batson? What do you think of Freddie Freeman? What do you think of Mary Batson? What do you think of Shazam and Captain Marvel? Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this character and what you think of us bringing back Know Your Universe. I feel like it's something that this channel needs once again. We need to educate you on your favorite characters, not just give you stories about your favorite characters. And if that's what we're gonna do, maybe we should bring back a set day for Know Your Universe. Let me know what you think about bringing back this series, and let me know what you think in the comments down below who we should cover next if you think the series should stay.